Have you ever looked at a piece of ancient Chinese art and felt like there was something more beneath the surface, something whispering secrets from the past? What if I told you that every brushstroke, every color, every seemingly random detail in these masterpieces was placed there with deliberate, hidden intent? For centuries, Chinese artists wove layers of coded meaning into their work, embedding symbols so subtle that most of us walk right past them without a second glance. But today, we're pulling back the curtain on 30 of these carefully concealed symbols, each one a key to unlocking the deeper stories of power, spirituality, and cultural wisdom that shaped one of history's most fascinating civilizations. Imagine standing in front of an ornate Ming Dynasty vase or a sprawling Song Dynasty landscape painting. At first glance, they're breathtaking, but look closer and you'll start to notice the whispers of a hidden language. A dragon isn't just a dragon, it's a declaration of imperial authority. A lotus flower isn't merely decoration, it's a nod to purity and enlightenment. Even the way clouds curl or waves crash could carry messages about harmony, fortune, or even warnings meant only for the initiated. These symbols weren't just artistic flourishes, they were a secret code, a way for artists to communicate ideas too dangerous or sacred to say aloud in a world where words could be treasonous. What's even more astonishing is how many of these symbols still resonate today, hidden in plain sight across museums, temples, and even modern designs. Some were meant to protect, others to inspire, and a few to send veiled threats. So how do we crack this centuries-old visual cipher? That's exactly what we're about to explore together. From the fierce majesty of the phoenix to the humble wisdom of the bamboo, each symbol we uncover will reveal another layer of China's rich philosophical and artistic legacy. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a detective story, one where you'll start seeing these clues everywhere, ready to decode the secrets. Let's begin. The dragon isn't just a mythical creature in Chinese art, it's a seismic force of nature, a symbol so potent that for centuries, only the emperor himself was allowed to wield its full power. Picture a Ming Dynasty scroll unfurling before you, its ink strokes alive with the sinuous curve of a five-clawed dragon twisting through storm clouds. This wasn't decoration, it was a visual decree, a reminder that the emperor wasn't merely a ruler but the son of heaven, chosen to mediate between the cosmic and earthly realms. Every whisker, every scale was meticulously crafted to convey unshakable authority. Jade carvings transformed the dragon into a talisman of immortality, while palace rooftops bristled with ceramic dragons, their mouths forever open to swallow evil spirits. But here's where it gets fascinating. The dragon's claws were a secret language of hierarchy. Only the emperor could use the five-clawed dragon known as the Long. 4 claws that signaled a prince or high-ranking noble. 3 claws were for officials further down the ladder, and if you stumbled upon a 2-clawed dragon, you were likely looking at something meant for commoners or even foreign dignitaries, proof that in imperial China, even art enforced social order. The Forbidden City's very architecture whispers this code. 9 dragons coil around the throne room, 9 being the ultimate imperial number, their golden bodies a blazing announcement of supremacy. Yet the dragon's power wasn't just political, it embodied the dynamic balance of yin and yang. Its thunderous roar summoned life-giving rain, while its serpentine form mirrored the winding rivers that fed the land. Artists often paired dragons with phoenixes, not just for contrast but to symbolize the emperor and empress's harmonious rule. So the next time you see a dragon in Chinese art, look closer. Those aren't just claws, they're a manifesto. That isn't just a creature, it's the heartbeat of an empire. Where the dragon roars with imperial might, the phoenix Feng Huang in Chinese soars as its luminous counterpart. This isn't just a mythical bird, it's a celestial tapestry woven from virtues. Picture its plumage. The head symbolizes virtue, the wings duty, the back propriety, the chest mercy, and the belly credibility. Every feather whispers Confucian ideals, making the phoenix a living emblem of moral perfection. While the dragon represented the emperor, the phoenix was the empress's sacred mirror, grace incarnate, her authority radiating not through force but through wisdom and harmony. Nowhere is this balance more dazzling than in wedding art. Imagine a bridal gown from the Qing dynasty, embroidered with a phoenix and dragon dancing amid clouds. This wasn't mere ornamentation, it was a cosmic blueprint for marriage. The dragon's yang energy met the phoenix's yin, their union a promise of balance and prosperity. Even the colors spoke volumes. The phoenix often glided across scarlet silk, its gold thread catching the light, red for joy, gold for eternity. These motifs adorned everything from dowry chests to palace walls, turning everyday objects into silent prayers for a blessed union. But the phoenix's magic goes deeper than partnership. Its cyclical rebirth from flames made it the ultimate symbol of renewal. During the Han Dynasty, poets likened it to the empress's ability to nurture and transform, just as the bird rose anew from ashes. In tombs, phoenix motifs guarded the deceased, ensuring their spiritual rebirth. And here's a twist: while the dragon ruled the waters, the phoenix commanded the winds. Folk tales describe its song as so exquisite, it could calm storms, a metaphor for the empress's role in soothing discord within the court. Yet the phoenix wasn't confined to palaces. In folk art, it appeared on peasant wedding quilts and festival lanterns, a democratized emblem of hope. A Ming-era pottery fragment might show a phoenix perched on a rock, not just decoration, but a coded wish for resilience. Even the direction it faced held meaning. Flying upward signaled impending triumph, while gazing downward offered protection. So the next time you encounter this radiant bird in art, remember, it's not merely a creature of legend. It's a silent symphony of virtue, a flame that never dies, and a testament to the invisible forces that shaped an empire's heartbeat. Amid the thunder of dragons and the radiance of phoenixes, the qilin emerges as the quiet oracle of Chinese mythology, a creature so gentle its hooves never crushed a blade of grass. Part dragon, part deer, with scales like armor and a mane flickering like flame, this chimera wasn't just a figment of imagination. It was a celestial herald, appearing only to announce moments of cosmic importance, the birth of a sage ruler, the dawn of a golden age. Picture a Ming Dynasty blue and white porcelain bowl, its surface alive with a qilin stepping delicately among peonies. Every detail here was a whispered promise, the peonies for wealth, the qilin itself a living omen that prosperity and divine favor walked hand in hand. What makes the qilin extraordinary is its duality. Unlike the dragon's ferocity or the phoenix's grandeur, the qilin wielded power through serenity. Ancient texts describe it moving without disturbing the earth, its voice like wind chimes, a being so attuned to harmony that its mere presence could judge human virtue. Emperors coveted its image not as a symbol of dominance but as proof of their just rule. During the reign of the Yongle Emperor, court artists immortalized qilin alongside bundles of sacred texts linking the creature to wisdom itself. Even its anatomy was allegorical: antlers for longevity, an ox's tail for diligence, a single horn to pierce deceit. But perhaps its most fascinating role was as a harbinger of destiny. When Confucius's mother was pregnant, legend says a qilin appeared with a jade tablet in its mouth, foretelling the philosopher's birth. Centuries later, Zheng He's voyages returned from Africa with a giraffe, instantly declared a qilin by the Ming court, transforming an exotic animal into political theater. The message, heaven itself sanctioned the emperor's reign, yet the qilin's magic wasn't confined to palaces. On children's robes, it became a guardian against misfortune. In folk prints, it carried the god of literature on its back, a nod to scholarly ambition. Even its occasional depiction with flaming flanks, borrowed from Buddhist art, reminded viewers that true wisdom burns away illusion. So when you encounter this gentle hybrid in art, remember, it's more than a mythical beast. It's the silent pulse of a culture that believed virtue could literally walk among us, soft-footed and radiant. While dragons command the skies and Qilin tread softly on earth, the tortoise anchors itself as the bedrock of Chinese symbolism, an enduring emblem of wisdom so profound, its shell was believed to map the cosmos itself. Picture a Han Dynasty bronze mirror, its surface divided like the tortoise's carapace into 9 squares, each segment corresponding to the celestial realms. This wasn't mere decoration, it was a microcosm of the universe, a tool for divination and a shield against chaos. In tomb art, the tortoise often carries a stele on its back, immortalizing the deceased's virtues, literally bearing their legacy into eternity. The tortoise's connection to longevity isn't just metaphorical. Ancient alchemists sought its essence in elixirs of immortality, while poets marveled at creatures said to live for millennia, their shells etched with the secrets of time. But its true power lies in its role as the black tortoise of the north, one of the 4 celestial guardians in Chinese cosmology. Unlike the fiery vermilion bird of the south or the azure dragon of the east, the black tortoise embodies winter, water, and the quiet strength of endurance. Temples dedicated to the north often feature tortoises coiled around pillars. Their stone forms a prayer for unshakable stability. What's remarkable is how artists encoded duality into its form. A tortoise intertwined with a snake known as Xuanwu symbolizes the dance of opposites, earth and water, stillness and movement, even life and death. Ming Dynasty scholars kept jade tortoises on their desks, not just as emblems of patience, but as reminders that true wisdom unfolds slowly, like the creature's deliberate steps. Even in folklore, the tortoise outwits the hare not through speed, but through relentless, unwavering focus, a lesson etched into everything from children's primers to imperial edicts. So when you encounter a tortoise in Chinese art, look beyond its humble shell. It's a celestial atlas, a bridge between realms, and a silent teacher whispering that time itself bows to those who wait with purpose. Shimmering like polished jade beneath the moon, the white tiger stalks the western quadrant of Chinese cosmology, not merely a beast, but a celestial sentinel whose very presence wards off chaos. Unlike the dragon's imperial grandeur or the phoenix's luminous grace, the white tiger embodies raw, untamed power, its stripes said to map the constellations themselves. On a Han Dynasty funeral banner, it appears frozen mid-snarl, its claws bared alongside the azure dragon and vermilion bird, forming an eternal guard around the deceased's journey to the afterlife. This wasn't just art, it was a spiritual arsenal, a visual incantation to repel malevolent forces. What makes the white tiger unique is its duality. As the guardian of the West, it governs autumn, the season of harvest but also of decay, and the metal element, symbolizing both the sharp edge of a sword and the unyielding strength of armor. Military commanders wore tiger amulets into battle, believing its ferocity would flow into their blades. Yet in Taoist temples, the same creature appears with a cub cradled gently in its jaws, a paradox of destruction and protection. The Tang Dynasty even named one of its elite military regiments the White Tiger Corps, their banners emblazoned with the beast's likeness to strike fear into enemies' hearts. But the tiger's role transcends warfare. Folk tales describe it as the sworn enemy of demons, its image painted on doors during the Lunar New Year to bar evil spirits from entering homes. In children's clothing, embroidered tigers guarded against illness, their thread-counted eyes said to glare down lurking pathogens. Even its stripes carried meaning, 5 stripes for the 5 elements, 12 for the months of the year, each line a thread in the fabric of cosmic order. Perhaps most haunting is its connection to justice. Ancient courthouses often displayed tiger motifs, not just as symbols of authority, but as reminders that wrongdoing would be met with relentless pursuit. The tiger's unblinking gaze became a metaphor for divine judgment, its presence in art a silent warning. The universe keeps score. So when you encounter this alabaster predator in Chinese art, remember, it's more than a mythological guardian. It's the embodiment of nature's unforgiving balance, a reminder that even in the afterlife, nothing escapes the watchful eyes of the celestial protectors. Beneath the jade-colored skies of the east, the azure dragon unfurls, its serpentine body not just a creature of myth, but the very heartbeat of spring's awakening. Where the white tiger governs autumn's descent, the azure dragon, or Qinglong, heralds renewal, its dominion stretching across wooden landscapes bursting with peonies and budding willows. In Taoist temple murals, it coils around pillars wreathed in mist, its scales shimmering like rainwater, a living embodiment of the element it commands. Farmers whispered prayers to it before planting seasons, for this was no mere symbol. It was the architect of life-giving storms, the celestial engineer who balanced the heavens' tears with the earth's thirst. The dragon's azure hue is no accident. Its color mirrors the first light of dawn cracking over distant mountains, a visual promise that winter's grip will loosen. Imperial astronomers mapped its celestial form onto the stars of the eastern sky, where its constellation governed the rains. During droughts, emperors performed rites dressed in indigo robes, their movements mirroring the dragon's sinuous dance, begging it to unleash the clouds coiled in its claws. Even its direction was sacred. Palace gates facing east often bore its likeness, inviting the dragon's generative energy to flow into the realm. But the azure dragon's power wasn't just meteorological, it was deeply philosophical. Taoist sages saw in its fluid form a lesson in Wu Wei, the art of effortless action. Unlike the rigid guardians of other directions, this dragon moved like water, adapting to valleys and cliffs without resistance. Artists captured this duality in ink-wash paintings, where a single stroke might suggest its tail disappearing into mist, half visible like the boundary between the tangible and the divine. Folklore pulses with its presence. One legend tells of a village that carved the dragon's image into irrigation channels, only to watch as floods miraculously avoided their fields. Another speaks of scholars who dreamt of the dragon and awoke to compose poetry that stirred emperors. And in the quietest corners of rural China, you'll still find charms depicting the azure dragon wrapped around a pearl, not just a treasure, but the eternal cycle of seasons clutched gently in celestial jaws. To encounter this dragon in art is to witness the universe's quiet, relentless pulse, the certainty that after every winter, the East will always glow blue again. Yet perhaps its most enduring legacy lies in the mundane. The next time you see a traditional blue and green landscape painting, notice how the peaks resemble a dragon's spine, the rivers its veins. Even the humblest farmer's almanac once held traces of its wisdom, with planting dates timed to its celestial movements. The azure dragon wasn't just worshipped, it was lived, a rhythm as natural as breath, proving that the grandest forces often hide in the quiet turning of the earth. Where the azure dragon heralds spring's arrival, the vermilion bird Zhuke blazes across the southern sky, its crimson wings drenched in the essence of midsummer's fire. This isn't just a mythical creature, it's a living furnace, its feathers said to glow with the same heat that ripens grain and pulses in the heart of volcanoes. On a Tang Dynasty silk robe discovered in a noblewoman's tomb, the bird spreads its wings in threads of cinnabar and gold, each stitch a tribute to the unyielding power of the sun. To wear this motif wasn't merely a fashion statement, it was an invocation, a way to harness the bird's celestial fire for vitality and triumph. The vermilion bird's dominion over the south isn't arbitrary. In Chinese cosmology, the south is the realm of abundance, where sunlight lingers longest and crops reach their peak. Ancient star maps depict its constellation as a guidepost for summer solstice rituals, when emperors lit bonfires to mirror the bird's radiance. But its flames aren't just destructive, they're transformative. Alchemists revered the vermilion bird as the embodiment of the elixir of life, believing its image could purify base metals into gold. A Song Dynasty manuscript shows it perched atop a crucible, its beak open as if fanning the flames of creation itself. What's striking is how artists encoded duality into its form. While its plumage burns with yang energy, its song described in poetry as the sound of melting ice, whispers of balance. Taoist temples often paired it with the black tortoise, fire and water locked in eternal dance. Even its posture carried meaning. A bird in flight signaled ascension, while one mid-descent represented the descent of divine favor. Folklore paints it as both protector and omen. Farmers painted vermilion birds on barn doors to ward off locusts, while sailors avoided sails, dyed its hue, fearing it might summon storms. Yet in palaces the bird adorned bronze mirrors, its reflection believed to scorch away deceit. To encounter the vermilion bird in art is to witness the paradox of fire, a force that devours but also ignites rebirth. Its legacy flickers on, from festival lanterns to modern logos, a reminder that even the fiercest flames can light the way to transformation. Tucked between the brushstrokes of a Song Dynasty landscape or etched into the eaves of a Ming Dynasty temple, the 8 trigrams Bogwa form a silent lattice of cosmic logic. These 8 three-lined symbols aren't just abstract geometry. They're the skeletal framework of the universe itself, a visual cipher distilled from the ancient I Ching. Picture a scholar's ink painting where mountains rise in mist, their peaks mirroring the trigram for heaven, while a winding river below echoes the undulating lines of water. This wasn't mere scenery, it was a meditation on balance, each element placed to harmonize with the unseen forces mapped by the Bogwa. At first glance, the trigrams seemed deceptively simple, 3 stacked lines, some broken, some solid. But their power lies in their permutations. The solid line, yang, and broken line, yin, combine in 8 possible arrangements, each governing a fundamental force, from the creative vigor of Kayan, heaven, to the receptive depth of Kun, earth. Artists didn't randomly scatter these symbols. A Ming porcelain dish might feature the Lai trigram fire encircling a sun motif, reinforcing the element's association with illumination and clarity. In Taoist temple murals, the trigrams often radiate from a central Taiji symbol, their lines acting as conduits between celestial and earthly realms. The I Ching's influence is unmistakable. Divination manuals from the Han Dynasty show trigrams paired with poetic hexagrams, their interpretations guiding everything from imperial edicts to harvest rituals. But in art, they became more than tools for fortune-telling, they were blueprints for living. A Song Dynasty handscroll might depict a hermit's hut nestled beneath the Gen Trigram mountain, a visual ode to stillness and introspection. Meanwhile, palace architects aligned entire complexes with the Bogwa, ensuring the emperor's throne faced Kayan, the trigram of divine authority. What's fascinating is how the trigrams permeated everyday life. Folk embroideries stitched them into children's hats to ward off evil, while merchants engraved them on shop signs to attract prosperity. Even the direction of the lines held meaning. Inverted trigrams in funerary art signaled the reversal of energies in the afterlife. And here's the twist, the Bogwa wasn't static. Artists sometimes activated it by pairing trigrams with their corresponding seasons, colors, or familial roles, turning a simple geometric pattern into a dynamic map of existence. So the next time you encounter these 8 symbols in art, look beyond their stark lines. They're not just designs, they're the DNA of a worldview, a silent language whispering that every mountain, every river, every human action is part of an infinite, interconnected dance. No symbol whispers the philosophy of balance more eloquently than the yin-yang, that swirling dance of black and white that seems to pulse with its own quiet energy. More than just an abstract design, this motif is the heartbeat of Daoist thought, captured in everything from Neolithic jade discs to the embroidery of imperial robes. Imagine holding a Han Dynasty by disc in your palm, its polished surface cool against your skin, the yin-yang etched at its center like a fingerprint of the cosmos. This wasn't mere decoration, it was a meditation tool, a physical manifestation of the Daoist belief that opposites light and dark, masculine and feminine, action and stillness aren't enemies but partners in an eternal waltz. What makes the yin-yang extraordinary is its fluidity. Unlike rigid Western dichotomies of good versus evil, the Chinese understanding embraces interdependence. Notice how the white teardrop cradles a black seed, and the black swirl cradles a white one, each containing the essence of its opposite, forever in flux. A Ming dynasty scroll might depict a mountain yang reflected in a lake yin, their interplay mirroring the symbol's wisdom. That strength grows from softness and stillness births movement. Even the brushstrokes themselves embody this duality. Ink washes blend from dense to transparent, each stroke a testament to the artist's balance between control and surrender. Daoist texts like the Daoist amplify this visual poetry. Laozi's verses describe the yin-yang as the mother of all things, a concept artists translated into tangible form. A Tang dynasty mirror might pair the symbol with the 8 trigrams, its bronze surface a microcosm of cosmic order. Temple murals often show deities standing on yin-yang platforms, their divine authority rooted in this equilibrium. And here's the twist, the symbol wasn't static. During the Song dynasty, scholars painted it with a third, undulating line between the halves, representing Kai, the vital breath that animates the dance. Yet the yin-yang's magic wasn't confined to high art. Folk potters shaped it into clay stove vents to ensure harmonious household energy. Martial artists traced its curves in their movements, their fists embodying softness conquering hardness. Even childbirth rituals incorporated the symbol, with midwives placing yin-yang amulets beneath beds to balance the energies of labor. So when you encounter this ancient spiral in art, remember, it's more than a pleasing design. It's a living philosophy, a reminder that harmony isn't the absence of tension, but the art of holding opposites in perfect, dynamic tension. Emerging unblemished from murky waters, the lotus blooms as one of Chinese art's most profound paradoxes, a flower that embodies spiritual transcendence yet pulses with earthy vitality. In Buddhist temple murals, it rises with serene defiance, each petal spotless despite the mud below, mirroring the soul's journey toward enlightenment. A Tang dynasty silk painting might depict the Bodhisattva Guanyin seated atop a lotus throne, the flower's open form symbolizing the awakened mind untouched by worldly suffering. Monastic artists rendered it in pale inks, the delicate gradations of each petal a meditation on detachment. Yet step into a Ming dynasty bridal chamber, and the same flower explodes in carmine and gold on porcelain bowls, its buds plump, its leaves curling suggestively around pomegranates, shouting fertility, rather Than Chinese letter Buddha nature. This duality is no accident. The lotus's very biology became a metaphor for harmony. Its roots cling to the sludge of ponds while its face turns sunward, making it the perfect bridge between sacred and profane. In Buddhist art, the number of petals held coded meaning. An 8-petaled lotus represented the noble eightfold path, while a 1,000-petaled version, often seen in mandalas, visualized cosmic infinity. Yet folk artists subverted this solemnity. A set of wedding cups might show carp nibbling at lotus stems, an unmistakable play on fertility, where fish, Chinese letter U, homophonically echoes abundance, Chinese letter U. Even the seed pod's prolificacy transformed it into a token for large families. Qing dynasty embroidery often paired it with playful children, the message as bold as the stitches. The lotus's adaptability reveals deeper cultural currents. In Daoist alchemy, it symbolized the elixir of immortality, its stem likened to the human spine channeling spiritual energy. Yet in kitchen deities' shrines, dried lotus seeds were offerings for culinary prosperity. A single Song dynasty scroll could capture this spectrum. A monk's austere lotus staff in one corner, a merchant's lavish lotus-shaped money box in another. And here's the genius: the lotus never contradicts itself. Whether painted on a monk's begging bowl or molded into a noblewoman's hairpin, it remains unbroken by its many meanings, just as its stem bends but never snaps in the wind. Perhaps its most poignant iteration lies in funerary art. A Jin dynasty tomb relief might show the deceased emerging from an open lotus, reborn into the Pure Land. Meanwhile, a child's burial garment could be stitched with lotus buds, a silent prayer for the family line to continue despite loss. This is the lotus's ultimate lesson, that purity doesn't mean rejection of life's messiness, but the wisdom to bloom unshaken within it. From temple altars to maternity robes, its message echoes true grace isn't about rising above, but transforming what lies below. Golden and luscious, the peach isn't just a fruit in Chinese art, it's a passport to immortality, its juice said to drip with the secrets of eternal life. Daoist legends swirl around the peaches of immortality, magical fruits blooming once every 3,000 years in the celestial orchard of the goddess Ziwangmu. Picture a Ming dynasty hanging scroll where deities gather at a mythical banquet, their robes swirling as they reach for peaches so radiant they glow like miniature suns against the silk. This wasn't fantasy, it was political theater. When emperors commissioned these scenes, they weren't just decorating palaces, they were staging their own divinity, casting themselves as rulers worthy of sitting at Ziwangmu's celestial table. The peach's symbolism roots deep in Daoist alchemy. Its flesh, pink as dawn, mirrored the elixir of life sought by ancient adepts. Texts like the Baopuzi describe alchemists crafting peachwood talismans to banish evil, while poets likened its fleeting bloom to the preciousness of longevity. But the real intrigue lies in how this sacred fruit infiltrated courtly propaganda. A Song dynasty lacquer plate might depict an emperor receiving a peach from a heavenly attendant, a not-so-subtle suggestion that his reign held the mandate of heaven. Banquet murals in the Forbidden City showed envoys presenting peach-shaped jades, transforming diplomatic gifts into coded affirmations of the ruler's eternal legitimacy. Yet the peach's power wasn't confined to emperors. Folk artists carved its image into children's lockets to ward off sickness, while brides tucked peach pit charms into their sleeves for fertility. Even though wood held magic, Daoist priests wielded peachwood swords to exorcise spirits, believing the tree's essence could slice through malevolent forces. And here's the twist: the peach's duality as both sacred and sensual. While temple frescoes showed it as a beacon of transcendence, vernacular novels like Journey to the West reveled in its juicy decadence, with the mischievous monkey king devouring Ziwangmu's peaches in a riot of rebellion. So the next time you see a peach in Chinese art, look closer. That rosy hue isn't just pigment, it's the blush of eternity. That stem isn't mere detail, it's the thread connecting mortals to the divine. From imperial propaganda to peasant talismans, the peach whispers a tantalizing promise that even in a fleeting world, immortality might just be a bite away. Bent against mountain winds and clinging stubbornly to cliffs, the pine tree stands as China's ultimate survivor, its gnarled roots gripping rock while its evergreen needles whisper defiance to winter. In literati ink paintings, these trees aren't just botanical studies. They're self-portraits of the scholar class, their twisted trunks mirroring the intellectual's resilience against political storms. A single Ming dynasty scroll might depict a lone pine clinging to a precipice, its branches arthritic yet unbroken, brushed with ink so layered it seems to hold centuries of snowfall. This was no casual landscape feature, it was a visual manifesto. The pine's ability to thrive in harsh conditions made it the emblem of the ideal Confucian gentleman, unyielding in principle, yet adaptable enough to bend without snapping under pressure. The deeper symbolism lies in the pine's details. Its needles grow in pairs, symbolizing harmony between loyalty and flexibility. The bark's rugged texture became a metaphor for wisdom earned through hardship, while its evergreen nature spoke to moral constancy. Scholar artists like Wen Zhengeming painted pines with deliberately jagged strokes, their brushwork mimicking the tree's tenacity. These works often hung in private studies, where exiled officials would gaze upon them as reminders that integrity, like the pine, endures seasons of exile and frost. But the pine's magic truly unfolds when paired with its celestial counterpart, the crane. Together, they form a visual ode to longevity. A Song Dynasty silk fan might show cranes nesting in pine boughs, their white feathers stark against the dark needles. An allegory where the crane's mythical lifespan, said to reach 1,000 years, merges with the pine's perpetual greenery. Daoist alchemists even brewed pine needle tea as an elixir, believing the tree's vitality could transfer to those who consumed it. Folklore amplifies this bond. One legend tells of a hermit who meditated beneath an ancient pine until cranes began nesting in its branches, signaling his impending transcendence. Another describes emperors planting pines in palace courtyards, their roots symbolizing the dynasty's unshakable foundation. Even the tree's resin held significance, called dragon's breath by apothecaries. It was used to seal wounds, both physical and spiritual. What's striking is how the pine transcends class. While scholars cherished its intellectual symbolism, farmers saw it as a practical guardian. Villagers planted pines near graves to shelter ancestors' spirits, and brides carried pine twigs to ensure marital fortitude. A single Qing dynasty New Year print could capture this duality. Pine branches frame a scene of children playing, their evergreen presence a prayer for generational resilience. So when you encounter a pine in Chinese art, don't just see a tree. See a parchment of endurance, its bark etched with the stories of those who refused to wither, whether scholars in exile, cranes in flight, or dynasties weathering time's relentless gales. Whispering in the wind with every graceful bend, bamboo embodies a paradox that has captivated Chinese artists for millennia, unyielding strength cloaked in effortless flexibility. More than just a plant, it became the living manifesto of the literati class, its hollow stems symbolizing humility while its deep roots spoke of unshakable principles. Picture a Yuan dynasty ink painting where bamboo stalks erupt from cracked rocks, their leaves rendered with a single abrupt stroke of the brush. This wasn't mere artistic flourish, it was moral philosophy in visual form. The Confucian ideal of the Junzi, the noble person who adapts without compromising core values, found its perfect mirror in bamboo's physical duality, swaying in storms but never breaking, its joints reinforcing resilience like the chapters of a sage life. The secret to bamboo's symbolic power lies in its very structure. Each segment between nodes represents incremental growth, echoing the Confucian belief in steady self-cultivation. Artists like Zhao Mengfu mastered the flying white technique to depict its leaves' quick, dry brushstrokes that left intentional gaps, suggesting both movement and transparency. A Ming Dynasty manual might instruct pupils to paint bamboo only after meditating on its essence, for the plant demanded technical precision married to spiritual clarity. The brush had to capture the moment when a stem, pressed by snow, springs back with renewed vigor, a metaphor for enduring life's burdens with dignity. Bamboo's connection to sound added another layer of meaning. Scholars hung bamboo wind chimes outside studios, their melodies a reminder that wisdom should resonate like the plant's hollow stems when struck. Poets likened its rustling to the whispering of virtuous friends, while Daoist alchemists prized bamboo slips for recording sacred texts, believing its fibers preserved truth uncorrupted. Even the plant's practical uses reinforced its symbolism. Calligraphers carved brushes from bamboo handles, transforming the plant into a conduit for artistic expression, while musicians fashioned flutes whose notes were said to channel the voice of the uncut forest. Yet bamboo's most revolutionary role emerged during times of upheaval. When the Mongols ruled during the Yuan dynasty, exiled scholars painted bamboo in monochrome ink, no colors, no gilt, as a silent protest against ostentation. Their stark scrolls, like Nai Zan's bamboo and rock, became acts of defiance, the plant's evergreen presence a vow to outlast foreign occupation. Later, Qing dynasty rebels used bamboo paper for secret missives, its fibers tough enough to withstand folding and concealment. From imperial gardens to peasant courtyards, bamboo's legacy thrives. A child's first writing lesson might trace the character for virtue, Chinese letter on bamboo paper, while bridal dowries included bamboo baskets to symbolize a marriage's enduring framework. To encounter bamboo in Chinese art isn't just to see a plant, it's to witness an unbroken thread of cultural DNA, where every stroke of ink, every whispering leaf, carries centuries of quiet rebellion and rooted grace. Amid winter's unforgiving grip, when other flowers retreat into the earth, the plum blossom defiantly unfurls its delicate petals, a stark proclamation of resilience against the frost. This isn't just a flower, it's a revolution in 5 petals, a symbol so potent that poets and painters for centuries have wielded its image as a manifesto of endurance. Picture a Song Dynasty album leaf, its silk surface alive with plum branches rendered in ink so spare, so precise that each stroke feels like a breath held in the cold. The artist might have used a technique called fei by flying white, where the brush's dry bristles scrape the paper, leaving gaps like cracks in ice, making the blossoms appear to shiver yet stand unbroken. The plum's defiance is ecological before it's symbolic, blooming as early as January, often while snow still blankets the ground. It became the ultimate emblem of thriving against adversity. Scholars exiled to harsh frontiers composed verses comparing themselves to the plum, its fragrance intensifying in the cold, just as their resolve hardened in isolation. A famous poem by Lin Bu describes spending an entire winter moon gazing at plum blossoms by West Lake, their quiet persistence mirroring his own unyielding principles. Even the flower's life cycle carries coded meaning. Buds represent potential, half-open blooms the tension of struggle, and fully unfurled petals the triumph of perseverance. Artists elevated this narrative through layered techniques. A Ming Dynasty ceramic vase might show plum branches twisting like calligraphic strokes, their asymmetry echoing the natural world's imperfect beauty. The Meran plum blossom motif often appears with cracked ice patterns, literally broken ice, symbolizing the thaw of hardship under steadfast resolve. And here's the subtle genius: plum blossoms are rarely painted in vibrant colors. Monochrome ink dominates not out of lack, but to emphasize that true strength needs no adornment. Yet the plum's symbolism transcends stoicism. Its 5 petals align with the 5 virtues: resilience, purity, humility, courage, and harmony. In Daoist art, they mirror the 5 elements, while in folk traditions, they become a charm against misfortune. Brides wore plum blossom hairpins not just for beauty, but as talismans for a marriage that would endure seasons of difficulty. Even the flower's fleeting bloom, often lasting just days, taught a profound lesson: that brilliance isn't measured in longevity, but in the intensity with which one shines against the dark. Perhaps its most poignant iteration lies in collective memory. During the Yuan dynasty, when Mongol rule forbade Han Chinese from holding office, scholars gathered in secret to paint plums, their gatherings called Meihua Shuhui, plum blossom societies. Each brushstroke was an act of quiet rebellion, a vow that their culture, like the winter plum, would outlast the frost. Today, the blossom remains a national emblem, its image stamped on everything from currency to military insignia, a reminder that the most fragile appearances often cloak unbreakable spines. To encounter the plum in art isn't just to see a flower, it's to witness a 1,000-year-old dialogue between fragility and fortitude, where every petal is a promise winter never wins. Golden and unyielding against autumn's chill, the chrysanthemum blooms as nature's final fanfare before winter's silence, a flower that doesn't merely endure the cold but thrives in it. While peonies bask in spring's applause and lotuses revel in summer's heat, The chrysanthemum claims the 9th lunar month as its sovereign domain, its petals radiating like miniature suns against fading landscapes. But this isn't just a botanical marvel, it's a cultural icon that transformed reclusion into an art form. Picture a Qing dynasty cloisonné vase, its surface a riot of enameled chrysanthemums in gold and lapis lazuli, each petal outlined with wire so delicate it seems to tremble at a touch. These weren't decorative whims, they were tributes to the flower's defiant elegance, a quality that resonated deeply with scholars who, like the chrysanthemum, chose to flourish in seclusion rather than bend to societal frost. At the heart of this symbolism stands Tao Qian, the Jin dynasty poet whose love for chrysanthemums became legendary. His verses painted the flower as the ultimate companion of the principled recluse, a soul who traded courtly intrigue for the honest poverty of a farmstead. One famous poem describes him plucking chrysanthemums by the eastern hedge at dusk, their fragrance mingling with mountain air as the last light gilds their petals. This image, repeated across centuries of art, wasn't just about aesthetics, it was a manifesto. When Ming dynasty painters depicted scholars in garden pavilions surrounded by chrysanthemums, they weren't illustrating idleness but ideological resistance, a life where authenticity trumped ambition. The chrysanthemum's link to longevity adds another layer of intrigue. Daoist alchemists steeped its petals in wine, believing the concoction could extend life. Emperors coveted it too. The Kangxi Emperor once received a chrysanthemum-shaped timepiece from Jesuit missionaries, merging Western mechanics with Eastern symbolism. Yet the flower's most fascinating duality lies in its class transcendence. While literati prized wild varieties for their untamed beauty, imperial artisans lavished them in luxury. Like a Qianlong era snuff bottle carved from chrysoprase, its surface blooming with gemstone chrysanthemums so lifelike you'd swear they swayed in an unseen breeze. Folklore teems with its magic. Farmers planted chrysanthemums near rice fields to repel pests, while brides tucked dried blossoms into wedding sachets for enduring love. Even its medicinal uses spoke to its symbolic weight. Teas brewed from its flowers were said to purify the liver, just as the plant itself purified the soul. Today, the chrysanthemum endures as both national emblem and quiet rebellion, its petals whispering that sometimes the deepest strength grows not in the spotlight, but in the solitude of autumn's fading light. Bursting forth in extravagant layers of crimson and gold, the peony doesn't merely bloom, it reigns. Known as the king of flowers, this voluptuous blossom became synonymous with prosperity so abundant it bordered on decadence. Tang dynasty court painters immortalized peonies in swirling, almost theatrical compositions. Their petals so densely layered they seemed to spill beyond the silk scrolls that contained them. One famous work, Guo Zai's Early Spring, shows peonies clustering at the base of a mountain, their opulence contrasting with the austere peaks above, a visual metaphor for the tension between worldly riches and spiritual ascension. But don't mistake these flowers for mere decoration, they were declarations. When Empress Wu Zetian commissioned peony murals for her palaces, she wasn't just celebrating beauty. She was asserting that her court dripped with the same irresistible allure as the flower's intoxicating fragrance. The peony's link to wealth wasn't subtle. Its lush, multi-petaled form mirrored the silks and jewels of the elite, while its short blooming season, just 3 weeks in spring, made it a fleeting luxury only the privileged could afford to cultivate. Tang aristocracy competed in absurdly lavish peony viewing parties, where guests drank from cups floating with actual petals, and poets penned odes comparing the flowers to piles of imperial treasury gold. A single stem could sell for the price of a peasant's yearly harvest, fueling a black market for stolen roots. Yet beneath this extravagance lay a more provocative subtext. The peony was unapologetically sensual. Its heavy, nodding blooms and intoxicating scent earned it nicknames like the Drunk Beauty, while courtesans wore peony pins to signal their availability. Erotic novels of the Ming dynasty used the flower as a metaphor for feminine voluptuousness, its petals unfurling in descriptions of boudoirs and clandestine liaisons. What's fascinating is how the peony's symbolism evolved with China's shifting values. During the Song dynasty, as austerity gained favor among scholars, the peony was temporarily dethroned by the more restrained plum blossom. Yet it never lost its cultural cachet. Qing dynasty porcelain designers revived it with renewed fervor, painting peonies in familial rose enamels so vivid they seemed to pulse against the glaze. Even today, the flower straddles contradictions. It's both a national emblem and a token in gambling dens, where it's believed to attract luck. From Tang dynasty silk robes to modern banknotes, the peony's legacy endures, a reminder that beauty, power, and desire have always been intertwined, each petal a whisper of the intoxicating dance between abundance and excess. At first glance, the bat might seem an unlikely bearer of blessings, its nocturnal habits and shadowy wings more readily associated with the macabre in Western lore. But in Chinese art, this creature flutters as a jubilant emblem of prosperity, its very form a visual pun that unlocks a treasure trove of wordplay. The secret lies in pronunciation. The Mandarin word for bat, fu, sounds identical to the character for good fortune Chinese letter. This homophonic alchemy transformed the humble bat into a ubiquitous symbol of luck, its stylized silhouette adorning everything from imperial robes to peasant wedding gifts with coded wishes for happiness. Nowhere is this more dazzling than in Qing dynasty embroidery. Imagine a noblewoman's silk sash, its midnight blue surface swarmed with bats woven in gold thread, not as frightening creatures of the night, but as abstracted whirls of wings, their bodies shaped into the Shu character for longevity. Master embroiderers took this wordplay further, arranging 5 bats in a circular pattern known as the 5 blessings, Chinese letter. Each bat represented a different wish: longevity, wealth, health, virtue, and a peaceful death. A single court garment could contain dozens of these motifs, their wings intricately knotted to resemble swirling clouds, embedding layers of auspicious meaning into every stitch. The bat's visual versatility shines in decorative arts. On a familial rose porcelain vase from the Qianlong era, ruby-red bats dive amidst peonies, their outstretched wings mirroring the flower's petals. A double pun combining fu, bat/fortune, with gui, peony/nobility. Jade carvers sculpted bats with melon vines, where the fruit's many seeds multiplied the blessing symbolically. Even architectural details whispered this code. The ceiling of Beijing's summer palace features carved wooden bats holding coins in their mouths, their bodies forming the strokes of the character Tian, heaven, a celestial guarantee of prosperity. What's ingenious is how artists disguised the bat's form for different audiences. Imperial craftsmen rendered them with near-scientific accuracy, their veined wings precise enough to identify species. Yet folk artists distilled them into geometric patterns: triangles for bodies, crescents for wings, allowing even illiterate villagers to recognize the symbol. A child's hat might boast a single embroidered bat hovering over a lotus, a whispered prayer for a fortunate life, while a merchant's ledger could bear a bat stamp to attract wealth. The bat's most poignant role emerges in funerary art. Ming dynasty tomb bricks often depict bats flying toward the deceased, their wings carrying prayers for blessings in the afterlife. This duality, creatures of darkness bearing light, captures the essence of Chinese symbolism. That meaning isn't inherent but shaped by perspective. So the next time you spot a bat in Chinese art, listen closely. Those aren't just wings rustling, it's the sound of fortune taking flight. Gliding through ink-washed streams and darting across lacquered screens, the fish, especially the carp, emerges as one of Chinese art's most dynamic symbols, its scales shimmering with layers of meaning. At first glance, a Ming dynasty woodcut might depict a lone carp leaping upstream, its muscular body arched against a current of swirling waves. But this isn't just a scene from nature, it's a visual proverb. The carp's legendary struggle to swim upstream and transform into a dragon embodied the Confucian ideal of perseverance, a metaphor for scholars enduring the grueling imperial exams. Yet the same fish, when painted in pairs or schools, morphs into a pun for abundance. The Chinese word for fish, Chinese letter U, sounds nearly identical to surplus, Chinese letter U. A Qing dynasty New Year's print could show chubby carp frolicking among lotus pods, their numbers multiplying like coins in a merchant's coffer, a jubilant prayer for prosperity in the coming year. What's fascinating is how this symbol straddles class divides. Imperial artisans crafted entire palace floors from glazed tiles arranged like koi ponds, their cobalt and turquoise hues mimicking water underfoot, a literal expression of walking on wealth. Meanwhile, village brides stitched fish onto dowry quilts, their threads looping in auspicious knots to bless the marriage with fertility. The contrast in execution is striking. Folk artists rendered fish with bold, exuberant strokes, their fins like brushfire, while court painters favored precision, each scale a miniature masterpiece of iridescence. A single carp on a scholar's inkstone might be rendered with just 3 delicate strokes, yet its energy would pulse with the same vitality as the gaudy carp lanterns bobbing over peasant festivals. But the fish's symbolism dives deeper when paired. 2 carps circling each other in a ceramic bowl aren't merely decorative, they evoke the yin-yang dance of marital harmony. This duality reaches its zenith in the mandarin duck, often mistakenly grouped with fish in art. A Song dynasty silk fan might show these ducks gliding beside carp, their feathers a riot of color against the fish's gold. The ducks representing conjugal fidelity, the carp amplifying wishes for material bounty. Even the direction they swim holds meaning. Fish heading upward signal ascension, while those descending whisper of blessings flowing into the home. The most poignant iteration lies in transformation myths. A Jin dynasty tomb mural might depict a child riding a carp, its tail morphing into dragon scales, a metaphor for posthumous transcendence. Meanwhile, Daoist alchemists carved fish-shaped jade amulets to be placed on the deceased, believing their form could guide souls through the underworld's rivers. From imperial mosaics to children's bathtub toys shaped like fish, ensuring they'd swim like the creature, this symbol's fluidity proves that in Chinese art, even the simplest forms can ripple with infinite meaning. Emerging from the earth after years of silent waiting, the cicada bursts forth in a crescendo of song, a fleeting yet deafening proclamation of transformation. In Chinese art, this humble insect isn't just a creature of summer. It's a philosopher in miniature, its life cycle mirroring the soul's journey through death and rebirth. Picture a Han Dynasty tomb where a jade cicada rests cold upon the tongue of the deceased, its wings delicately incised with veins so fine they seem to tremble. This wasn't mere ornamentation, it was a spiritual battery believed to hold the power of resurrection. The cicada's molting, shedding its earthly exoskeleton to reveal glistening new wings, became the ultimate metaphor for transcendence, a promise that decay was merely a prelude to renewal. Scholars treasured the cicada for an entirely different reason. Its voice. Unlike birds that flit from branch to branch, the cicada perches high in the trees, singing with unwavering focus until its brief life ends. This became the perfect allegory for intellectual pursuit. A Song Dynasty ink painting might show a lone cicada clinging to a bamboo stalk, its body rendered in monochrome strokes as precise as calligraphy, a visual ode to the scholar's ideal of detachment from worldly noise. Poets like Ouyang Zhu compared their meditative state to the cicada's song, a chorus rising above the clamor of politics and petty concerns. The duality of its symbolism is striking. In funeral rites, jade cicadas were placed in mouths to ensure the dead could speak in the afterlife, their jade tongues never decaying. Yet the same insect adorned the hats of living officials, a reminder to voice truths without fear. The material spoke volumes, nephrite cicadas for the elite, their cool translucency symbolizing purity, while ceramic versions comforted commoners with their unbreakable resilience. Perhaps most poignant is how the cicada bridges opposites. Its earthly beginnings and airborne end mirror the Confucian ideal of grounding study in reality while aspiring to higher truths. A Ming Dynasty scholar's desk might hold a cicada-shaped paperweight, not just to hold down scrolls, but to anchor lofty thoughts to discipline. Even its brief lifespan, some species live mere days as adults taught a lesson. That brilliance isn't measured in years, but in the intensity with which one shines. From tomb relics to literati brushes, the cicada's legacy endures. It whispers that transformation is possible, that silence precedes song, and that even the smallest creatures can carry the weight of eternity in their wings. With wings outstretched like scrolls unfurling, the crane ascends as both celestial courier and living hourglass, a creature whose every feather whispers of immortality. Daoist temple murals depict it mid-flight, its slender neck arched in a curve that mirrors the sacred calligraphy of Shu, the character for longevity. This is no ordinary bird. It's the chosen steed of Zion immortals, those reclusive sages who mastered the alchemy of eternal life. A Song Dynasty silk painting might show a white crane descending through mist toward a mountaintop hermit, its wings dusted with gold, not mere pigment, but a visual echo of the elixir its rider seeks. The crane's biology fed its mystique. Its ability to stand for hours on one leg mirrored the meditative stillness of adepts, while its haunting cry was said to carry messages between heaven and earth. What makes the crane extraordinary is how its symbolism transcends mere myth. During the Han Dynasty, officials wore crane-embroidered badges to signal their connection to divine authority, their robes fluttering like wings during court rituals. Yet in folk traditions, the bird became a guardian of the domestic sphere. Brides received quilts stitched with paired cranes, their intertwined necks symbolizing 60 years of marital bliss, a nod to the belief that cranes lived for 6 decades. Even the direction of its flight held meaning. A crane soaring westward signaled the soul's journey to the western paradise, while one alighting on a scholar's garden hinted at impending promotion. The crane's dance elevated it beyond ornament. Tang poets describe its mating ritual as a cosmic ballet leaps that scatter dew like pearls, wings beating in rhythm with the kin zither's notes. Artists captured this in ink washes where negative space became as vital as the brushstrokes. The gaps between feathers implied movement, just as Daoist philosophy found wisdom in emptiness. A Ming Dynasty scroll might show a lone crane poised at the edge of a cliff, its reflection in the void below a silent lesson. True elevation comes from balance, not force. Alchemy intertwined with its imagery, Daoist adepts called the crane the elder of the feathered tribe, believing its bones held secrets to longevity. Elixir recipes included crane marrow, while meditation manuals advised visualizing the bird's flight to elevate one's kai. This duality, physical and spiritual, reaches its zenith in the red-crowned crane, its crimson cap resembling the pulsating upper dantian, the energy center linked to enlightenment. From imperial court dances mimicking its grace to children's names invoking its vigor, the crane's legacy soars beyond time. It's not just a symbol of long life, but a reminder that transcendence is woven into the very act of rising, one deliberate, graceful wingbeat at a time. Graceful as a whispered promise, the deer steps lightly through Chinese art, not merely as a woodland creature, but as a shimmering cipher for prosperity and eternal life. Its very name in Mandarin, Lu, rings with layered significance, echoing the word for official salary, Chinese letter, transforming the animal into a living talisman for career advancement. A Ming Dynasty lacquer box might depict a golden stag leaping through clouds, its antlers branching like coral against a crimson background, not just a decorative motif, but a blazing advertisement of the owner's ambition. This visual wordplay reached its zenith during imperial examinations, when scholars carried deer-shaped inkstones, their tools whispering silent prayers for promotion with every brushstroke. The deer's link to longevity is etched deeper than language. Daoist lore venerates the white deer as a companion of immortals, its snow-colored hide symbolizing purity and its rumored 1,000-year lifespan making it the ultimate emblem of transcendence. A Tang Dynasty mural from a noble's tomb might show such a creature grazing beside a pine tree, their combined imagery, deer for longevity, pine for resilience, forming a visual incantation against mortality. Alchemists powdered deer antler in elixirs, believing the annual shedding and regrowth echoed the cyclical rebirth they sought to harness. Even the animal's cautious demeanor became allegorical. Court poets compared its alertness to the vigilance required of officials navigating political thickets. What's striking is how artists adapted its form across mediums. In delicate Song Dynasty porcelain, deer appear with coats painted in soft iron red washes, their slender legs poised mid-step as if frozen in a forest clearing. Contrast this with the boldness of Qing Dynasty cloisonné, where stags rear amid golden vines, their enameled bodies glittering like fragments of sunlight. The mythical white variants reserved for imperial art were rendered with near-translucent jade or moon-white porcelain, their rarity mirroring the exclusivity of the court they adorned. Folk traditions wove the deer into daily life. Children's hats bore embroidered fawns to ensure robust health, while bridal dowries included deer-shaped hairpins, a nod to the creature's association with marital fertility. One charming folktale tells of a magistrate who dreamed of deer frolicking in his garden, only to wake to news of his promotion, proving that in Chinese symbolism, even sleep couldn't dull the deer's golden magic. Perhaps the most poignant iteration lies in its silent dialogues with other symbols. Paired with cranes, the deer becomes part of a visual chorus celebrating long life. Alongside blooming peonies, it morphs into a harbinger of wealth and status. From the gilded dreams of scholars to the quiet hopes of farmers, the deer's legacy endures a testament to how art can transform hoofbeats into heartbeats and wilderness into wishes woven from gold. Amid the mist-shrouded peaks of Tibetan Thangkas and the gilded halls of imperial China, the elephant emerges not as a mere beast but as a seismic force of sacred strength, its massive frame embodying both physical power and spiritual fortitude. Unlike the dragon's celestial fury or the phoenix's radiant grace, the elephant carries Buddhism's quiet majesty, its presence in art often reserved for moments of divine revelation. Picture a vibrantly painted thangka unfurled before a monastery altar, where a white elephant with lotus-shaped feet stands sentinel beside the Queen Mother of the West. This isn't arbitrary imagery, it's a visual covenant. In Buddhist tradition, the white elephant's rarity mirrors the preciousness of enlightenment, while its steady gait symbolizes the unwavering path toward wisdom. The animal's association with the Queen Mother, a Daoist deity of immortality, fuses two spiritual worlds, its bulk bridging earthly might and celestial benevolence. The elephant's symbolism roots deep in Buddhist lore. Ancient texts describe Queen Maya dreaming of a white elephant descending from heaven before giving birth to Siddhartha Gautama, the future Buddha, transforming the creature into a living omen of sacred destiny. Tibetan artists capture this moment in intricate detail. Ivory tusks gilded with gold leaf, trunk curled delicately around a jeweled lotus, each element a meditation on the intersection of power and purity. The elephant's 6 tusks, often depicted in tantric art, represent the 6 perfections of generosity, morality, patience, diligence, meditation, and wisdom, its body becoming a walking scripture. Yet the elephant's grandeur isn't confined to religious art. In the Tang Dynasty, when Buddhist influence peaked, imperial processions featured mechanical elephants crafted from silk and wood, their trunks spraying perfumed water to bless onlookers. A surviving fragment of a mural from the Mogao caves shows an elephant draped in brocade, its howdah shaped like a palace, a metaphor for the mind carrying the weight of enlightenment with royal grace. Even the creature's biological traits were allegorized. Its long memory echoed the Dharma's enduring truths, while its protective stance over calves symbolized the Buddha's guardianship of all beings. The elephant's most fascinating duality lies in its link to the Queen Mother of the West. While Buddhist art emphasizes its spiritual role, Daoist depictions reimagine it as her celestial steed. A Ming Dynasty jade plaque might show the Queen Mother seated atop an elephant, its ears fanning like clouds as she offers peaches of immortality. Here, the elephant's strength isn't just physical, it's the vehicle for transcending mortality itself. Folk artists took this further, carving elephant-shaped incense burners where smoke curled from its trunk like the breath of the divine, merging ritual with artistry. From the thanka's luminous pigments to the scholar's inkstone carved with an elephant's form, this creature's legacy is a testament to art's power to elevate the earthly into the sacred. It reminds us that true strength isn't just in the muscle, but in the weight one carries with grace. Roaring into Chinese art from the distant trade routes of Central Asia, the lion arrived not as a native beast but as a regal import, its symbolism reshaped into something uniquely powerful in Buddhist tradition. Unlike the dragon's fluid grace or the tiger's raw ferocity, the lion's imposing presence was channeled into spiritual guardianship, its stone form frozen in perpetual vigilance at temple gates. Picture the Ming Dynasty's Yong Temple in Beijing, where twin lion statues flank the entrance, their manes carved into swirling flames, paws resting defiantly on celestial spheres. These weren't mere decorations, they were cosmic sentinels, their right paw traditionally atop the globe symbolizing authority over the physical world, while the left often resting on a cub whispered of protection for the teachings within. The lion's thunderous roar, said in Buddhist texts to silence all lesser voices, became a metaphor for the Dharma's power to cut through ignorance. Yet this fearsome symbolism birthed a whimsical counterpart, the Fu dog, a cynicized lion that danced into textiles and ceramics with almost cartoonish charm. While temple lions glared in stone seriousness, Fu dogs curled their tongues playfully on embroidered rank badges for Qing dynasty officials, their stylized bodies woven in gold thread against sapphire silk. The contrast is deliberate. Where guardian lions stood rigid, Fu dogs often romped in pairs, one male gripping an embroidered ball representing the world's treasures, the female restraining a cub symbolizing the nurturing of wisdom. A Kangxi-era familial vert vase might depict them frolicking like puppies amid peonies, their fangs softened into smiles, transforming a once feral symbol into domestic auspiciousness. The lion's journey reveals a cultural alchemy at work. In Tibetan thankas, it appears snow white and crowned with jewels, its back supporting the throne of Manjushri, the bodhisattva of wisdom, its strength now sublimated into enlightenment. Yet visit a rural village during Lunar New Year, and you'll find children wearing Fu dog slippers, the soles embroidered with spiked designs to bite away misfortune. The lion wears many masks in a Tang Dynasty tomb mural. It's a hybrid creature with dragon wings guarding the deceased. In a Shanghai Qipao pattern, it's a sleek Art Deco silhouette, its mane reduced to geometric waves. What unites these iterations is duality, the lion as both destroyer of evil and playful bringer of luck. A Ming Dynasty cloisonné incense burner might shape its body into a lion's form, smoke curling from its nostrils like a silent growl, while a child's pillow embroidered with cartoonish Fu dogs promises sweet dreams. This balance between might and mirth reminds us that in Chinese art, even the most formidable symbols bend to cradle the human heart. Galloping across the vast expanses of Tang Dynasty murals and rearing triumphantly from tomb figurines, the horse surges into Chinese art not as a mere animal but as a living embodiment of ambition unleashed. Its sinewy legs stretch taut, hooves barely grazing the ground captured mid-stride in ceramic and bronze, as if frozen in a perpetual race toward greatness. This isn't just speed, it's a cultural obsession with velocity as virtue, where the horse's grace and power became metaphors for career advancement, military conquest, and even spiritual ascent. The most coveted of all were the legendary heavenly horses Tianma, said to descend from the clouds with coats that shimmered like liquid metal and stamina that outran the wind. When Emperor Wu of Han dispatched expeditions to Fergana Valley to secure these celestial steeds, it wasn't just for their tactical advantage in battle. It was because their very presence symbolized divine favor, as if the heavens had loaned their own chariot pullers to the mortal realm. The Tang dynasty elevated this symbolism to dizzying heights. Walk through the underground necropolis of any Tang noble, and you'll encounter armies of glazed pottery horses, their saddles draped in flame-like textiles, nostrils flared as if scenting battle. These weren't generic sculptures. Artisans individualized each horse with unique markings. A star-shaped blaze here, a docked tail there, mimicking the prized, blood-sweating Fergana steeds that nobles bet entire fortunes on. One famous figurine, unearthed from a princess's tomb, depicts a prancing stallion with a lone riderless saddle, its purpose clear: to carry the deceased soul to paradise with the same swift certainty it once carried its master across earthly plains. The horse's mane, meticulously carved into wind-tossed waves, mirrors the flying white calligraphy strokes used in Tang poetry, blurring the line between animal and artistry. Silk Road caravans immortalized the horse's role as a bridge between worlds. A mural from the Mogao caves shows a Sogdian trader leading a string of horses laden with indigo and saffron, their coats painted in lapis lazuli blue, a pigment more precious than gold. Here, the horse transcends species. It becomes the engine of cultural exchange, its hooves pounding out the rhythm of commerce and diplomacy. But perhaps the most poignant iteration is the Knight Shining White, a mythic charger immortalized in ink by Tang artist Han Gan. The painting shows the emperor's favorite stallion tethered but straining against its reins, muscles quivering, eyes rolling heavenward, an allegory of untamed potential yearning for the freedom to fulfill its celestial destiny. From battlefield to burial mound, from trader's road to artist's scroll, the horse's legacy is one of relentless motion. It carries not just riders and goods, but the very aspirations of a civilization that saw in its gallop the promise of boundless horizons. Drifting across silk scrolls like celestial brushstrokes, clouds in Chinese art are never mere background elements. They're the visible breath of the cosmos, swirling with divine messages and portents. On a Han Dynasty bronze vessel, these stylized vapor trails coil around the rim in rhythmic, almost hypnotic spirals, their forms neither purely abstract nor strictly representational. This intentional ambiguity is the key to their power. Ancient texts refer to them as auspicious vapor, Chinese letter ruiki, the visual manifestation of heaven's favor, believed to appear when a virtuous ruler governed or a sage was born. Unlike Western art's fluffy cumulus, Chinese clouds are dynamic, elongated tendrils that seem to pulse with energy, their forms echoing the rhythmic flow of Kai through the universe. The cloud's symbolism crystallized during the Han Dynasty, when Daoist adepts observed mountain mists and saw in their shifting shapes a language of the divine. A ceremonial incense burner from this period might depict the mythical Mount Pinglai emerging from a sea of openwork clouds, the design allowing actual smoke to weave through the openings, blurring the line between art and ritual. Emperors commissioned robes embroidered with 5 colored clouds, Chinese letter, each hue representing a direction and element, transforming the wearer into a living axis mundi. But it's the cloud's duality that fascinates. It simultaneously a barrier and a bridge. In Buddhist cave murals, bodhisattvas stand atop cloud platforms, suggesting their ability to traverse realms, while funerary banners show departed souls riding cloud chariots to paradise. Cloud patterns evolved into a visual shorthand for transformation. Ming Dynasty porcelain masters painted them as Rui cloud scrolls, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, their hook-like endings resembling the sacred fungus of immortality. These designs often framed imperial dragons, implying the ruler's celestial mandate. Yet folk artists distilled clouds into playful motifs. Children's hats featured stitched clouds with rain drips, a practical prayer for good harvests. Even the direction of their swirls held meaning. Clockwise clouds signaled ascension, while counterclockwise hinted at earthly blessings descending. Perhaps the most profound iteration lies in ink paintings, where clouds are defined by what they conceal. A Song dynasty landscape might use wet-on, dry techniques to create mist that swallows mountain peaks, the empty space more eloquent than any brushstroke. This negative painting mirrors Daoist philosophy, that truth often dwells in the unseen, the between, the breath before the storm. From bronze ritual vessels to the ephemeral beauty of a disappearing fog, the cloud reminds us that the most powerful forces are those we feel but cannot hold. Towering above mist-laden valleys with silent majesty, mountains in Chinese art are never mere geological formations. They're the vertebrae of the cosmos, their peaks piercing heaven's veil while roots anchor the underworld. A Song dynasty ink painting might depict a lone scholar gazing at distant summits, their jagged contours rendered with deliberate, upward strokes that drag the viewer's eye toward infinity. This wasn't scenery, it was spiritual cartography. Each brushstroke whispered secrets, the rugged, axe-cut texture of a cliff face symbolizing life's trials, while soft ink washes pooling at the base implied the mountain's hidden reservoirs of wisdom, waiting to be uncovered like groundwater. Daoist mystics saw mountains as living entities, their ridges pulsing with Kai energy. Sacred peaks like Mount Tai became Axis Mundi, places where emperors performed the Fengshen rituals to commune with celestial forces. A Ming dynasty handscroll might show a pilgrim ascending winding paths that vanish into clouds, mirroring the soul's journey toward enlightenment. The higher one climbed, the more reality-blurred temples perched on precipices weren't just architectural feats but metaphors for the mind's precarious balance between earthly attachments and transcendental clarity. Even the materials honored this duality. Jade carvings of miniature mountains graced scholars' desks, their cool stone embodying permanence, while ephemeral ink paintings captured shifting mists to remind viewers that solidity and flux were two faces of the same truth. The mountain's most fascinating role emerges in its partnership with water. A single Yuan dynasty scroll could juxtapose sheer cliffs with a cascading waterfall, their interplay embodying the yin-yang dance of strength and flexibility. The water's relentless erosion of rock wasn't destruction but alchemy, a visual lesson in persistence overcoming rigidity. Folk artists distilled this into mountain water, Shanshui motifs, where stylized waves curled like dragons around peaks, their fluid forms revealing that even the mightiest summits were shaped by time's quiet hands. Yet mountains also harbored danger. Legends spoke of hermits who entered their depths and emerged centuries later, their beards white with wisdom, or never returned at all. A cryptic Ming novel describes a painter who vanished into his own landscape, leaving only an unfinished peak on silk. Was it fantasy or a warning that mountains didn't just inspire transcendence, they demanded it, swallowing the unprepared whole? From imperial altar murals to the humblest village charm carved with a single triangle to represent a protective summit, these geological giants stand as silent teachers. They remind us that true elevation isn't about conquest but reverence for the earth's bones and the skies they hold aloft. Rippling through the very soul of Chinese art, water is never just water. It's a paradox of creation and destruction, its currents pulsing with the heartbeat of existence itself. Picture a Song dynasty landscape where ink-washed rivers carve through valleys, their sinuous paths mirroring the brushstrokes that birthed them. This fluid dance isn't mere aesthetics, it's a visual philosophy. Daoist sages saw in waters yielding nature the ultimate power, the ability to wear down mountains without force, to reflect the heavens without distortion, to nourish empires while swallowing them whole. A single Ming dynasty blue and white porcelain vase might juxtapose these dualities. Cobalt waves crashed dramatically around its base, evoking the peril of floods that shaped China's Yellow River civilization, while delicate lotus blossoms float serenely atop the surface, embodying the same water's life-giving grace. The genius of water symbolism lies in its abstraction. Unlike the literal depictions common in Western art, Chinese painters distilled water into rhythmic patterns, interlocking comma shapes for turbulent rapids, parallel lines for calm lakes, spiral eddies suggesting the infinite flow of Kai. These motifs became a visual language. On an imperial Chenghua-era bowl, stylized waves frame carp leaping toward dragons, their curling forms not just decorative but talismanic, transforming the vessel into a three-dimensional prayer for successful transformation. Even the material spoke volumes. The translucent glaze pooling in crevices mimicked actual water, making every ripple catch light like morning on a riverbank. Philosophy saturated every droplet. Confucian scholars admired water's adaptability, how it filled any container yet retained its essence as a model for social harmony. Meanwhile, Daoist texts like the Decode exalted its softness conquering hardness, a principle artisans embodied in jade carvings of waterweeds bending effortlessly under current. The most profound lesson emerged from ink painting techniques. By leaving paper untouched where waterfalls plunged, artists demonstrated that emptiness could convey motion more powerfully than any brushstroke. Yet water's darker currents ran deep. Folklore whispered of dragon kings lurking in whirlpools, demanding sacrifices to prevent floods. A haunting Yuan dynasty handscroll depicts villagers fleeing a swollen river, their tiny figures dwarfed by ink-black waves, an unflinching reminder of nature's indiscriminate power. Even the benign, fish-scale wave pattern on ritual bronzes carried hidden meaning. The tighter the scales, the greater the implied danger restrained by the vessel's sacred form. From the meditative stillness of a monk's water clock to the roaring torrents in frontier poetry, water's duality flows unbroken through Chinese culture. It asks us the same question posed by philosophers centuries ago. Will you drown in its depths or learn to ride its eternal tide? Silvery and enigmatic, the moon drifts through Chinese art not as a distant celestial body, but as an intimate companion to the human soul, its glow a mirror reflecting poetry, femininity, and the elusive promise of eternity. In a Tang dynasty ink painting, a lone scholar gazes from his riverside pavilion at the moon's reflection trembling on the water's surface, the brushstrokes capturing not just light but longing. This scene encapsulates the moon's duality. It's both a cosmic constant and a fleeting ripple, embodying the tension between permanence and transience that haunted philosophers and poets alike. The lunar cycle's rhythm became a metaphor for the stages of life, its waxing and waning echoing the rise and fall of dynasties, the swelling and fading of human emotion. The moon's bond with femininity is woven into myth and material. Chang, the moon goddess who swallowed the elixir of immortality, floats through art in robes of spun starlight, her rabbit companion grinding eternal medicine in jade mortars. A Ming dynasty lacquer box might depict her palace as a constellation of moon-white pavilions amidst cassia trees, their branches never shedding leaves, a visual ode to timelessness. Yet this celestial femininity wasn't passive, it held subversive power. Female poets like Lai Qingzhao harnessed the moon's imagery to voice unspoken desires, comparing their solitude to the cold orb suspended in the midnight sky, its brilliance undimmed by isolation. Even the moon's water yin essence contrasted with the sun's fiery yang energy, positioning it as the counterbalance to patriarchal dominance in cosmic harmony. Scholars' gardens transformed lunar worship into tactile art. Tehu rocks, those porous limestone sculptures eroded by time and water, were arranged to frame moon viewing platforms, their jagged silhouettes mimicking the moon's cratered surface when backlit by lanterns. The most coveted rocks bore natural perforations that, when the mid-autumn moon shone through, cast patterned shadows resembling the mythical toad or hare said to reside there. These weren't mere decorations, they were interactive cosmology, blurring the line between celestial and terrestrial. A single Suju garden corridor might align its moon gate windows to perfectly capture the harvest moon on the 15th day of the 8th lunar month, turning architecture into a celestial calendar. Mid-autumn festival celebrations elevated the moon to cultural protagonist. Song Dynasty mooncake molds carved its likeness alongside elaborate scenes of Chang's ascent, the sweet pastries becoming edible storytelling devices. Lanterns shaped like rabbits, the goddess's alchemical assistant, glowed in processionals, their paper skins painted with scenes of the moon's ice wheel, reflected in countless cups of wine, a tradition immortalized in Sushi's famous line, "May we all be blessed with longevity, though thousands of miles apart, gazing at the same beauty." Even the festival's round foods, pomelos, mooncakes, taros, mimic the moon's shape, their consumption a symbolic act of unity with the cosmos. What's haunting is how the moon's cold luminosity became a canvas for human vulnerability. A Yuan dynasty blue and white stem cup might show a fisherman drifting beneath its glow, the cobalt pigment layered to evoke both the moon's radiance and the water's depth, two infinities mirroring each other. This interplay reveals the moon's ultimate lesson, that in its borrowed light we see our own ephemeral brilliance reflected back, a reminder that even the fleeting can touch eternity. Blazing across the celestial tapestry, the sun in Chinese art burns with more than just light. It pulses with the unyielding energy of pure yang, its golden disk a visual manifesto of imperial authority and cosmic order. Unlike the moon's reflective coolness, the sun radiates from imperial robes and temple murals as a three-dimensional force, often depicted with its legendary three-legged crow nestled at the center. This mythical bird, known as the Sanzuwu, isn't just an oddity of folklore. Its crimson claws grip the sun's sphere like a conqueror claiming its throne, each leg representing the three phases of the day: dawn, zenith, and dusk, while its feathers burn with the heat of 10,000 furnaces. A Han Dynasty silk painting might show this crow mid-flight, its obsidian wings slicing through clouds as it carries the sun on its daily journey, a feat first described in the Shanhaijing, where the bird's tireless motion explained the sun's passage across the sky. The sun's visual language reached its zenith in imperial regalia. Ming Dynasty emperors donned robes embroidered with the golden disk encircled by 12 crimson flames, each tongue of fire symbolizing a month of the year and the ruler's role as the temporal anchor of the cosmos. These weren't mere decorations, they were sartorial mandates. The dragon might signify earthly power, but the sun claimed the higher ground literally. Palace architecture reinforced this hierarchy. The emperor's throne always faced south, aligning him with the sun's zenith, while courtiers stood in positions mirroring the solar orbit. Even the color palette whispered this code, with vermilion, the shade of sunlight at its most intense, reserved for pillars and gates, their hues chemically derived from cinnabar mined at imperial command. Yet the sun's brilliance held darker undercurrents. Solar eclipses weren't celestial events but cosmic emergencies, interpreted as heaven's disapproval of the ruler. Historical records like the Book of Documents detail frenzied rituals where drummers pounded hides to rescue the sun from the mythical dragon devouring it, while astronomers scrambled to realign calendars gone awry. A Tang Dynasty fresco from Astana shows officials kneeling as an eclipse darkens the sky, their postures rigid with terror not of the darkness, but of the emperor's impending wrath should they fail to interpret the omen correctly. The sun's absence wasn't just an astronomical phenomenon, it was a political earthquake. the three-legged crow's symbolism dives deeper into alchemical territory. Daoist texts describe it as the sun's inner fire, a distillation of pure yang energy that could be harnessed in elixirs. A Song dynasty bronze mirror might depict the bird perched atop the fuseng tree, its roots in the underworld and branches in heaven, the crow's cyclical journeys representing the soul's ascent and return. Folk artists, meanwhile, simplified the motif into child's amulets, a single crow etched in gold leaf, worn to ward off the yin chill of illness. What's mesmerizing is how the sun's imagery adapts across mediums. In cloisonne, its disc becomes a convex explosion of red and gold enamel, while ink painters reduce it to a single, perfectly empty circle, sometimes left unpainted, the paper's raw fibers glowing like a ghostly aureole. From the rigid formality of court art to the whimsy of New Year prints showing the crow as a plump, almost comical creature, the sun's legacy proves that even the most potent symbols bend to the human hand. It reminds us that light isn't just illumination, it's authority, rhythm, and at times a celestial gauge of earthly virtue. Nestled in the shadows of ancient tree roots and painted with almost sacred precision across silk scrolls, the Lingzhi mushroom emerges not as a simple fungus but as a botanical key to eternity. Known as the mushroom of immortality, its glossy, lacquered appearance in art, often rendered in deep crimson or gold, belies its earthly origins, transforming it into a celestial commodity. Daoist alchemists revered its irregular, kidney-shaped caps, believing each undulating curve held the secret to unlocking eternal life. A Ming dynasty manual on elixirs might depict Lingzhi growing atop mystical mountains, its stems twisting like sacred calligraphy against a backdrop of swirling clouds, while immortals hover nearby, waiting to harvest its otherworldly essence. The Lingzhi's visual language is steeped in deliberate exaggeration. Unlike realistic botanical illustrations, artists stylized its form into curling, cloud-like shapes, its layers overlapping like the petals of an eternal flower. This wasn't artistic license, it was alchemical code. The mushroom's Ling Chinese letter means spiritual or divine, and its depiction in art often emphasized this transcendence. On a Han Dynasty bronze mirror, Lingzhi motifs frame the central knob, their stems elongated into swirling tendrils that mimic the movement of Kai, suggesting the fungus wasn't just consumed but channeled like energy itself. Pair it with cranes or deer in a painting and the message amplifies. Longevity isn't a solitary pursuit but a symphony of sacred symbols working in harmony. What's fascinating is how the Lingzhi infiltrated both elite and everyday art. Emperors commissioned jade carvings of the mushroom to place in their tombs. Its stone form a promise of continued vitality in the afterlife. Yet villagers painted Lingzhi on childbirth amulets, its shape simplified into a hopeful red swirl on rough paper. The mushroom's duality shines in its pairing with Shu Lao, the god of longevity. A Qing dynasty scroll might show the deity clutching a Lingzhi staff, its gilded cap glowing like a miniature sun, while a mischievous monkey offers another mushroom, a visual joke about the endless pursuit of immortality. Even the direction of its growth held meaning. Lingzhi pointing upward signaled ascension to the heavens, while those cascading downward implied blessings descending to earth. The Lingzhi's most provocative role lies in its challenge to mortality. Daoist texts describe it as the physical manifestation of the fungus of the white jade maiden, a substance that could halt decay and purify the body. Alchemists ground it into powders, boiled it with cinnabar, and even shaped it into scepters for rulers to wield as proof of their divine favor. Yet for all its mysticism, the Lingzhi never lost its connection to the tangible world. A fragment of a Song dynasty painting might show a humble woodcutter stumbling upon a cluster of Lingzhi in a misty grove, his awestruck expression a reminder that the boundary between the miraculous and the mundane was always thinner than it seemed. Whether carved into a noble's hairpin or inked onto a peasant's prayer flag, the Lingzhi whispers the same tantalizing question: what if eternity wasn't a dream, but something growing quietly in the damp corners of the ordinary world? From the thunderous presence of dragons to the quiet wisdom of the tortoise, these 30 symbols aren't just artistic flourishes. They're the brushstrokes of an entire civilization's soul, woven across silk, bronze, and jade over thousands of years. Each dynasty left its own imprint on this visual language. The Tang embraced the peony's decadence, the Song elevated the plum's resilience, while the Ming wielded the dragon's claws as political propaganda. Yet what's astonishing is how these motifs transcended time and medium, whether carved into Neolithic ritual vessels or embroidered onto king-concubine slippers. They whispered the same universal truths about power, hope, and humanity's dance with the cosmos. Take a step back and you'll see these symbols formed a kind of silent poetry. The phoenix's feathers weren't just decorative, they were verses about virtue. The lotus rising from mud wasn't merely pretty, it was a couplet about purity wrested from chaos. Even the humble Lingzhi mushroom with its curling caps became a haiku about cheating death. This was art that didn't just please the eye but invited decoding, rewarding those who paused to look deeper with layers of philosophical, political, and spiritual meaning. Now it's your turn to join this ancient conversation. The next time you stroll through a museum or flip through an art book, watch how these symbols reveal themselves. The way clouds twist like dragons on a Ming vase, or how a scholar's robe hides bamboo stalks in its geometric patterns. Better yet, think like the artists who embedded these secrets. What would you hide in plain sight today? Which symbol's hidden meaning caught you off guard? Was it the bat's joyous link to fortune, or the cicada's promise of rebirth? Drop your favorites below and let's keep decoding together. After all, great art never stops speaking, it just waits for the right moment.